we're going to be taking a look at one of the EMTs who showed up at the incident involving Tyre Nichols. Remember the first one that I did? If you have not seen that, go back and take a look at it, because it says in that document that EMT JaMichael Sandridge did nothing for 19 whole minutes. You guys pick up your phone, let it run for 19 minutes, and get an understanding for how long that is. Well, now I'm going to be looking at the second EMT. I think his name's Mr. Long, Robert Long, something like that. We're going to take a look at his documents to see what it says about what he did or didn't do.
Yeah.
Thank you for hanging out with me as I make it through all of these documents so that we can get a better understanding of what's happened. We're going to take a look at this one for Robert Long. At least I got his name right when I was discussing this. Sometimes I go through so many documents I can hardly keep up. Okay, State of Tennessee Department of Health. Remember, this is an EMT who showed up the night that Tyre Nichols had been beaten and kicked and had gone through all of that abuse in the hands of the officers that we've all now seen on video. In the matter of Robert Long, respondent, Bartlett, Tennessee EMT license number 21406. And this is the State of Tennessee Department of Health before the Tennessee Emergency Medical Services Division. All right. So first thing we have here is just this information. The state presented evidence that respondent Robert Long, emergency medical technician, failed to render emergency care and treatment to patient TN as required by the code and the board's implementing regulations for approximately 19 minutes after arriving at the event location in Memphis, Tennessee on January 7th, 2023. So let me stop right there. It sounds like they're going to be saying the same thing. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is that JaMichael Sandridge was actually an advanced EMT. And so far in this opening paragraph, it seems that they're only saying that Mr. Long was just an EMT. And it makes me wonder if they're going to sort of lower the standard here, if they're going to say something any different, because I've already taken a look at the one for Mr. Sandridge. So I now want to compare these, because advanced to just regular, is there going to be a difference here in what the expectation was, and maybe what Mr. Long didn't do that he should have done, even though he is just a regular EMT. I don't mean to make that sound like a bad thing, but I'm just trying to distinguish between the fact that the other EMT was actually an advanced EMT. But let's move along. All right, we all know that this is Tennessee. All of this is falling under their authority, this board's authority. They have licensing authority. Findings of fact, respondent, and this is Robert Long, has been at all times pertinent hereto, licensed by the board as an emergency medical technician in the state of Tennessee, having been granted Tennessee license number 214076 by the board on May 20, 2020. Respondent's license currently has an expiration date of November 30th, 2023. Now, this is one difference I will say right off the bat, because the advanced EMT, I can't remember how many years it was, but the advanced EMT does have more experience, numbers of years, something like that. He has more experience. Mr. Long here doesn't seem to have as much experience. I should pull that back up and check that for you guys, but there's definitely a difference here. But the other thing is, it's since 2020. So you've been doing this for 3 years. The expectation is that you kind of know what you're doing at this point. On January 7th, 2023, it says here, respondent responded to an emergency medical dispatch at Castlegate Lane in Memphis, Tennessee, involving patient TN. At approximately 8:41 p.m., January 7, 2023, respondent arrived at the scene location along with respondent's partner. So far, all of this is the same. Remember, they showed up in the same vehicle. For the next 19 minutes, beginning at approximately 8:41 p.m. on January 7, 2023, respondent failed to provide any basic emergency care for patient TN, despite patient TN exhibiting clear signs of distress, such as the inability to remain in a seated posture and laying prone on the ground multiple times. A primary examination, which respondent did not initiate instantaneously or at any point during the 19-minute referenced time period after greeting patient TN, includes obtaining vital signs and conducting a full head-to-toe examination. A primary examination is used to establish the presence of any life-threatening injuries. Respondent failed to obtain vital signs and failed to conduct a full head-to-toe examination during the 19-minute reference time period. Vital signs play a key role in establishing a baseline for the patient from which deterioration of medical conditions can be measured. I am going to talk about this just like I did in the other video with Mr. Sandridge. 19 minutes is a long time for you to do absolutely nothing. And what they said was, not only did you not do anything instantaneously upon your arrival, you didn't do that primary evaluation, you also didn't do it at any point in time during those 19 minutes. That is a long period of time. One of the things that I said in my other video about this was that, most of us, if we see someone in distress, it usually catches our attention. So the fact that there he is, not able to stay seated up and he keeps falling over, that to even a layperson, a person who is not medically trained, would appear to say to us that something's not right here. Something is going on. And we would expect a medical technician to have an even higher level of understanding that something's going wrong. That's what I say to people all the time when they say things to me like, well, Sheila, I don't understand this about the law. I hate to ask this question because it probably sounds stupid. I'm like, you're not supposed to know that about the law. You're not an attorney. You're not a judge. You're not a paralegal. You haven't been to law school. There's no reason for you to know about court procedure. You might understand some things because you've seen some movies and some TV shows, and maybe you've gone to court with some people. But still, once you have a professional there, you would expect the professional to have a higher understanding of being able to see when something's not right. That's the expectation I would have, that somebody I hire as a professional is going to be better at that job than I would be. So let's head back over. So these are some of the very same things that got picked up and that I talked about. So far, this particular document is matching almost word for word to the one for Mr. Sandridge. So the advanced EMT and the regular EMT, it looks like they're being treated the same. Let me continue here. No primary evaluation, okay? No establishment of vitals so that you can tell if something's going wrong later, right? Respondent failed to perform a secondary examination during the 19-minute reference time period. A secondary examination is used to establish any other non-life-threatening injuries. Two-step process here: primary examination, not done. Secondary examination, not done. Respondent provided no treatment to patient TN for the approximate 19-minute reference time period beginning at 8:41 p.m. Patient TN did not receive from respondent high-flow oxygen. Now, I will say this. In the other document, they mentioned, I think, an IV. I think the other one mentions an IV. So this is where they may differ, that this regular EMT is not a person who would use an IV. If I'm remembering correctly, I'll try to put that in here so that we can see whether or not that is different. Then we go on to respondent did not engage his partner at the event location for purposes of taking appropriate action in safeguarding patient TN from incompetent healthcare practices of other emergency medical services personnel. So that part I think is also the same. So then we have the conclusions of law here. The facts listed above are sufficient to establish that respondent has violated the following statutes or rules, which are part of the Emergency Medical Services Act of 1983. And then you have the statute there for which disciplinary action by the board is authorized. And then you have part of this code A and B, which says it grants authority to the board for disciplinary action against, quote, any person subject to regulation pursuant to this part, unquote, for any violation of the Emergency Medical Services Act of 1983 and for any violation of any rule or regulation of the board. So then they go through what constitutes a violation here. It says EMS personnel shall exercise the skills and abilities needed to render appropriate emergency medical care and provide emergency medical services in accordance with authorized procedures in the respective level of training, and shall administer care to patients based upon knowledge and application of principles derived from accepted practice and medical approval. So let's talk about that for a second. Shall exercise the skills and abilities needed to render appropriate emergency medical care. And that is what they are saying he did not do. During that 19 minutes, you did not do any of this. Then it says abandoning or neglecting a patient requiring emergency care following assumption of duty. So once they arrived there, they neglected him as he appeared in distress. They did nothing for him. An EMT will provide basic emergency medical care for critical, emergent, and non-emergent patients who access the emergency medical system. Again, didn't provide the basic medical emergency care. Remember, no primary evaluation was done. No secondary evaluation was done. The facts in paragraph 10 are sufficient to constitute a violation of, and we've got a regulation here, failing to take appropriate action in safeguarding the patient from incompetent healthcare practices of emergency medical services personnel. All right, the summary here, it says the board hereby preliminarily finds the evidence shows respondent Robert Long, emergency medical technician, engaged in violations of the Emergency Medical Services Act of 1983 and the board's implementing regulations by failing to provide emergency care and treatment to patient TN for a 19-minute time period at the event location on January 7, 2023. The totality of the circumstances imperatively requires emergency action in order to protect the public health, safety, and welfare prior to the initiation of formal disciplinary charges. So let me go back and just tell you what they're talking about here. This was the preliminary action that they were taking, saying, hey, we feel like you are now a threat to public health. So we're going to go ahead and say you have violated these regulations and statutes. And then we're going to follow up with through our formal process to continue what we're supposed to do. But for right now, we've just taken a look at this and we're like, no, there were 19 minutes here. You didn't even do the basic of what you were supposed to do. Let's go back. So I want to make that clear. I didn't talk about that as much in the other video, but this actually applied to both of them. So they were going ahead and saying that he engaged in the violations and that therefore this required emergency action on the licensing board's part, okay? And then there's going to be this formal disciplinary charge. So what happened as a result of just this, not this other thing that was coming up, but just this. It says the respondent's license to engage in the practice of advanced emergency medical technician, license number 214076, is summarily suspended. Respondent shall cease and desist from practicing as an emergency medical technician in the state of Tennessee. The suspension shall be effective immediately and shall remain in effect until the conclusion of the contested case hearing against respondent or until otherwise ordered by the Tennessee Emergency Medical Services Division. Respondent may present respondent's version of the facts to the board at an informal conference if a timely request is made by 5 p.m. on February 10th to the Tennessee Emergency Medical Services Division. The sole issue at the informal conference mentioned above shall be whether the public health, safety, or welfare imperatively required emergency action by the board. In other words, did the board do the right thing under the circumstances? Was this emergency action that they took necessary to protect the public health and welfare of the residents of Tennessee? There you have it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have not checked out the other video with advanced EMT JaMichael Sandridge, you can compare the two, but I think there is only that one piece about the actual responsibilities that they have, that is the only thing that looks like it is different. Other than that, it looks like pretty much everything that they're saying here is the same. The most important part of that being the 19 minutes. 19 minutes. Like I said, just set your clock and let it go. 19 minutes that they did nothing. Not when they got there, not during that period, no primary evaluation, no secondary evaluation, and therefore it was recommended that their licenses, both of their licenses, be summarily suspended. If that helps bring you up to speed with your understanding of what happened and how that got processed, go ahead and give this a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.